Good morning everyone, and welcome to our Moravian Bible study for Sunday the 19th of April. I've picked 1 Peter 1, 3-9 from the Moravian readings today. It talks about a living hope. You and I have a living hope. Hope is a bit of a tricky word to understand. We can get it confused with faith. They are quite similar, but faith is less to do with the future. Faith is believing in the here and now what is not as if it is. So if I'm in faith for my healing, if I'm sick in my body, then I'm believing that what is not is, that I am healed and whole right now. It brings the future into the present. Hope is more concerned with a better tomorrow, a better future. And hope is a uniquely Christian concept, a New Testament concept. There's very little of it in the Old Testament. If you read the Old Testament, there's very little about heaven and the afterlife. It's a very vague concept. The Christian missionary and academic Vincent Donovan, he took the gospel to the Maasai peoples. You can read about it in Christianity Rediscovered, his book. And when he started to translate the New Testament and talk about the gospel, he realised there was no word in Maasai for hope. It was such an immediate world. You couldn't guarantee a better tomorrow. There was no promise of a better future. And as he looked into it, he realised that was the case across the world and throughout the ancient world. The Vikings had 2 ravens on their shield, one for the past and one for the present. They couldn't guarantee the future. The Greeks, hope is just an afterthought, a virtue that escapes Pandora's box along with all the other evils in the world. It's only in Jesus' teaching that heaven can come to earth, promising that his Father's house has many mansions, a guaranteed place that's developed through the New Testament, a certainty of the future, that we get this New Testament concept of hope, a guaranteed promise for the future. Bill Johnson says it's a little bit like the kids waiting for Christmas. Hope for us as Christians is not this vague thing. I hope it'll be a nice day tomorrow. I hope the coronavirus will end soon. It's more of a guaranteed thing based on the promises of God's word. So Bill Johnson says it's a bit like all the presents under the Christmas tree. I don't know when it's going to happen. It seems like a long way away, but I know that I'll get the good gift because I know who the Father is. I know the giver of the gift. And so in Peter, we read about this living hope, something guaranteed, a better future. And the future is described in 2 ways. It talks about future salvation, that we will be saved, rescued from this present world of suffering. And it talks about a future inheritance that will never spoil or fade. It is that secure, it is that certain. No matter how long we wait, it's a guaranteed inheritance. The inheritance of the saints. A new heaven, a new earth, reigning and ruling with Christ for all eternity, a crown of righteousness, a future salvation, a future inheritance. It is guaranteed. It is not wishful thinking. And this hope transforms how we live this day. It says that we are shielded by God's power. Isn't that incredible? You are shielded until that day by God's power. And in this present day, we experience 2 things. We experience present grief. Grief comes from a sense of loss, and that is a common emotion that we're experiencing in these days. A sense of grief, a sense of loss, a sense of trial, and a present refining, a way of viewing what is going on in the world. It is refining us and preparing us for our eternal guaranteed salvation and inheritance. But what Peter is saying is that when you have a guaranteed future, when it is absolutely certain and sure, like all of God's promises, that transforms how you live in the present. It transforms how you live in the trials and in the suffering. And so Peter says it means that we can rejoice in our trials. Are you rejoicing this day, even though you're in lockdown, even though the world is in chaos? It means we can be filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy because we have a sure and certain hope. This joy that we can experience right now, right this day, without any change in our circumstances, is beyond words, and it is glorious. Why do we have a living hope? Because we have Jesus. And because we have Jesus, our future is known to us and it is guaranteed to us, and he will shield us until that day. We know how the story ends, and we know our future inheritance.